Hello and welcome to the Leap of Faith demo video. To start, players will have an altar board. As you can see, you start with 5 followers, 12 fly tokens, a starter card called Tithe Collector, and on the influence bar you start at 4, and on the suspicion bar you start at 5. These chips are intended to be translucent, but it's not an option in Tabletop Playground yet, so I named them so. Players will then draw 2 cards from each deck, so that they have 6 cards in their hand. Out of these 6 cards, players can choose however many cards they wish to keep, and for every card they keep, they will pay 1 fly token. Players can keep as many or as little as they want. You may keep all 6 or you may keep none. I wish to keep these 3 cards, so these other 3 cards will go into the discard pile. Then I will pay 3 fly tokens for 3 cards. As you can see that there are 3 decks, so what do they do? This yellow deck is the donation deck with the fly jar symbol. They will generate you fly tokens, which is the main currency of the game, so that you can afford to do things. The green deck with the mushroom house is the building deck, and they will attract new followers for you. More followers would mean that you have more actions to perform, as they are the ones that perform your actions and upgrade your cards. The purple deck with the Lotus Sigil is the tarot deck. These cards are different from the other 2 decks, as they are one-time effect cards that would either give you a boost or sabotage your opponents depending on which way your suspicion swings. As you can see, there are 3 different card effects: on play, passive, and end around. On play effects only trigger once when the card is played. Passive effects will always trigger as long as the condition is met, while end around effects will trigger at an end around phase during the round. All tarot card effects are considered on play effects. Back to the altar board. The influence bar is a soft cap on how many followers you can have on your altar. You start at 4 and we currently have 5 followers. That would be alright, however, during the check follower phase in a round, you will have to check if your amount of followers exceeds your influence. If it does, the extra follower will each generate 1 suspicion during that phase. The suspicion bar is what the other animals in this forest think of you. You start in the middle ground at 5. As you can see, if you're in the 7 to 9 range of high suspicion, all the card costs will be lowered by 1. If you're on the other side of the spectrum, on low suspicion, you will gain devotion as an end around effect. When a round starts, you will first prepare it. This is when the shop will cycle, where a new card will push out and move other cards down the line. If there are empty spaces, the new cards will fill up the empty spaces first. Then you will move the round counter up 1 and pass the player 1 token clockwise. You will also recollect all your followers on your altar board back into the center altar, so that they are ready to form more actions in the next phase. The player action phase. There are a total of 11 actions a player may take during the round. On a player's turn, players may only take 1 action at a time, and they must pass their turn to the next player. Turns will keep rotating clockwise until everyone runs out of followers on their altar. When performing an action, take a follower off of the altar and place it on the action you wish to take. To start, let's play a card. I wish to play this card, so I will just place it in my play area, and I will pay the cost immediately. On play, I gain 3 suspicion, and I will move my suspicion up 3 immediately. If you wish to play a tarot card, they do not cost fly tokens. As you can see, they have a different symbol. To play a tarot card, you will first put a follower onto a player card action as well, and then check the cost amount to the number of followers that are currently still on your altar. This card requires 3 followers, and I have exactly 3 followers. You don't need to have the exact amount, you just need at least the number listed on the card. The second thing you need to pay attention to is the suspicion range requirement. This card does not require a range for it to be played, but most tarot cards require you to be in its range to be able to play it. For example, this one requires you to have a suspicion less than 4. Players can draw a card or draw 2 cards, but increase suspicion by 2. When players draw a card, they may take either from the face-up cards in the shop or from the top of the deck. If players wish to draw 2 cards, they can draw any 2 cards. They don't need to draw from the same deck. If players have cards that they don't like, they may choose to sell the card. For every card they sell, they will gain 1 fly token back. However, for every 2 cards they sell, they will also gain 1 suspicion. I wish to sell both of these cards. They will go into the discard pile, and I will gain 2 fly tokens and 1 suspicion. Players can also recruit new followers for paying 4 fly tokens, or they may pay 2 fly tokens only and gain 2 suspicion. I don't want to spend 4 fly tokens on a follower currently, so I will pay 2 fly tokens only and increase my suspicion by 2. New followers you recruit will go into your altar, and you may use them immediately on your next turn. My suspicion was at 9, and increasing it by 2 will bring it up to 11. However, suspicion will cap at 10. Once you hit 10 suspicion, there is a penalty, where you will first check the amount of followers you have and check it against your influence. If you have extra followers above your influence, in which case I currently have 6 followers, which is 2 above my influence. Therefore, I will lose 2 followers. If you don't have followers above your influence, you will still lose 1 follower. Then my influence will be lowered by 1, and then my suspicion will be reset to 5. If players are in need of a little extra fly tokens, gain either 1 fly token or 2 fly tokens and 1 suspicion. Both are gained immediately. Players can lower their suspicion by taking this action, where they can lower their suspicion by 1. However, players can keep lowering their suspicion as long as they can afford it. For every extra suspicion they wish to lower, they would pay 3 fly tokens. I wish to lower my suspicion by 2 more slots back down to 5, and therefore I will pay 6 fly tokens. Players can also increase their influence by paying 5 fly tokens. You may notice that I placed a follower on the tithe collector. That is to upgrade the card. Cards have either 2 or 3 columns, and if you read the effect, you will see an X. You would substitute X with the rightmost filled column, starting from the left. So currently, I will gain 2 fly tokens from the tithe collector, because the rightmost filled column is 2. If I wish to gain 3 fly tokens, I will have to fill up both boxes. If the first column of a card already requires a follower, the card will be inactive, since X will be undefined. Since upgrading a card requires you to take a follower off of the altar, it is also considered an action. The game will end after 12 rounds, and after the entire round is completed. However, if a player reaches 50 devotion, they may end the game early on the current round that they are on. In order to gain devotion, there are 3 ways. First, milestones. This last red deck here are milestone cards. And starting round 4, there will always be 3 shown. Milestone cards have a quest that you would fulfill. Once you have fulfilled the quest, you will take a follower on your altar and place it on the card to mark it during the player action phase, which is one of the 11 actions. There are 3 tiers of rewards, and the player who marks the milestone first will gain a higher reward. Player also do not need to maintain the quest as the round goes on. They only need to fulfill the quest the moment they wish to mark the milestone. Second way of gaining devotion is by making offerings to the god. There are 3 types of offerings: followers, fly tokens, or cards, and they will each give you a different value. Offering rewards are also tiered in that players who gave the highest offering will receive the full amount of devotion from the type of offering. However, if you are the player that offers the most, it does not matter how much or how little you offered. You will still gain 6 devotion if you offered 1 follower cube as the highest offerer or 10 follower cubes. To make an offering, place your follower on the text and place the offer you wish to give to the god into the offerings tray. If you are offering up your followers, you may place them directly into the offerings tray. You may ascend a follower early and bring them to the god right now instead of waiting until the end of the game. The resources required are currently only referenced in the rulebook, and it is based on the current round we are on. We are currently on round 6. Therefore, in order to ascend my follower early, I would need to send them off with 5 fly tokens, and that will gain me 5 devotion immediately. During the player action phase, you have placed down your offerings for the god. The next phase is when you will receive your devotion from the offerings. This will be when players check who has the highest offering, who is in second place, and who is in third. If players match their offerings, both players will take the higher benefit. Therefore, if both players have the highest offering of fly tokens, they will both gain 4 devotion. The next phase is to check your follower count. As mentioned, this is when you will check the amount of followers on your altar board versus your influence. I am currently at 4 influence and I only have 1 follower on my altar board. Followers on cards will be omitted. I do not have followers exceeding my influence, so I will not take any penalty from this. During the player action phase, players have marked milestones that they have completed. Now, players will get to claim their milestones and cycle new milestones into the track. Player green gets 3 devotion. Blue gets 2, and red gets 4. These followers will then go back to each player's respective altars. And then these completed milestones will be discarded. Milestones are cycled the same way as the shop, in which new cards will push down on older cards, so there will always be 1 new milestone card. Finally, the last phase in a round is the end round. This is when all the players' end round effects on their cards will trigger. Players can trigger them in any order they wish to give themselves the biggest benefit. It seems like player green has reached at least 50 devotion. That means the game will now end on this round, and scoring begins. Players will take their amount of devotion as a base, and they will get some extra devotion from the amount of followers and fly tokens they have earned throughout the game. There are 7 followers in player green's cult, and therefore they will gain half the amount of that in extra devotion, which would be 3. Players will also count the total amount of fly tokens and then divide that number by 10. Player green only has 8 fly tokens at the end of the game, and they will have 0 extra devotion from fly tokens. After adding all these 3 values up, the player with the highest total devotion will win the god's favor and will be able to ascend and avoid the oncoming calamity. Thank you for watching, and I hope you will enjoy playing Leap of Faith.